I love cake. I love cake. I love cake. Oh, I really do. I love cake.
My darling, I love you, 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 I love you.
I love cake. I could talk about cake a lot. I love cake. But wedding cake. Wedding cake is a different type of cake. So we like to look at the traditions and we like to look at now. Traditionally, you would have had fruitcake. Fruitcake with marzipan and icing sugar, and it would have probably been 3 tiers, and the top tier would be taken off. It would then be put into the freezer and it would be gotten out for the christening of your first child. Now, obviously times have moved on and not everybody likes fruitcake, and really you can have whatever you want in a cake now. And you can also get your cake from wherever you want. You do not have to spend a lot of money on your cake. I have seen the following: a cherry Bakewell cake, and they basically had a stand, and all the way down the stands they had cherry Bakewell tarts. I personally had a profiterole cake, and it was literally profiteroles down 8 tiers, and that is what I had for a cake. And we didn't cut a cake, we just picked off a profiterole and both ate a profiterole. On the flip side, I have seen some of the most incredible huge cakes. They've had like different designs all the way down the cakes. These days you can actually get like a laser show put on your cake, so your cake lights up and completely changes and the theme changes, or you know, you have an animation going on throughout your cake. I've seen it where people have had a compromise and they've had half of the cake in like this beautiful lacy kind of style of cake and the other half like a superhero's theme or a football theme, so you kind of have the best of both of what the couple wanted on the cakes. You can get very creative cake toppers. These days people will make cake toppers that represent your family in icing usually, and they go on top of your cake. You can also get them done in, I think it's like that Filmo or whatever, the clay stuff, so that you can then obviously keep the cake topper afterwards. There's loads of different options. You can be super creative. You could have a cake where every layer is different. You can also have like what I call a fake cake, which is basically where 2 or 3 layers of the cake are polystyrene, and it's just the top layer that's actually cake, and then that's the layer you cut for your photo. And then actually out the back in the kitchen, you then just have trays of like, you know, Victoria sponge cake or something or whatever it is. That's another way obviously to sort of keep the cost down and still have cake, because ultimately at the end of the day, someone has to cut this cake up. And, you know, when it's like this amazing, intricate cake with all this wonderful decoration, and then we get it out into the back in the kitchen, you're kind of looking at this like, how are we supposed to cut this up? That was particularly with something like a Chocky Wocky Doodah cake. Like, unfortunately, they went out of business, but their cakes were incredible and really beautiful. But obviously a lot of solid chocolate around the outside. So when it came to cutting them, you were like, oh, am I going to cut through this cherub? Or how exactly are you going to get into this cake? Obviously, there are other alternatives that you can do. I've seen a cheesecake where it is literally slabs of cheeses on top of each other. And I've also seen a pork pie cake. You can also go for the savory option if sweet is not your thing. There is so many different options, especially if you go to like a wedding fair. A lot of cake makers will bring samples, and then you get to try all the different kinds of cake. Or if you're having like a private meeting and booking with your cake maker, they often will have samples and things like that, which is great. I've actually seen a wedding that had the bake-off as part of their wedding, and they asked their guests if they wanted to take part to basically make a cake and bring it to the wedding. And then they had little vote sheets and people could vote as to who made the best cake, and then someone got a prize at the end of it. But it meant they ended up with about sort of 15 different cakes brought to their wedding, which I thought was a really fun idea. You can always get cakes to fit different dietary requirements. You could have a vegan cake on this side, maybe dairy-free, maybe normal cake, and have like 4 or 5 different styles of cakes, again, just laid out more as like a sort of dessert cake table, and then just pick which one it is that you want to cut. I have also seen someone literally just go to Sainsbury's and you can buy cakes with icing on top, and you can get them in 3 different sizes. You can stack them on top of each other and you can decorate them however you want to decorate them. And I also know a number of couples that have actually baked their own cakes before, you know, big 2-3 tier cakes before their wedding day. We've had the naked cakes, square cakes, round cakes, tiered cakes, long cakes, a cake in the shape of a castle, and I've seen the cake in the shape of a venue. Again, as I always say, there's no right or wrong way to do it, and there's so many different things out there. It's just a case of exploring what you want to do. But I think it's just good to know that there are lots of different options, and you can basically decide what your budget is and then work out something that suits you. Cheesy smile at the end.